Hello, teachers, and thank you so much for joining this live streamed community event on the Teach English Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram accounts. My name is Marcus James. I'm part of the social media team, and with me today is my colleague Naomi. Hi, Naomi. How are you today?
Hi, I'm great. I'm really looking forward to having a good chat with everyone today.
Absolutely. So,
Yeah,
teachers, if you're wondering what we are talking about, essentially what we've been talking about in our social media communities for the past few weeks as part of our focus on knowing the subject, what better focus than methods, approaches, and so much more. Thank you for joining us. Do let us know where you're watching from. Let us know in the comments. We've got Karen, who's moderating on all three platforms right now, and she'll be popping on a little bit later to summarize what teachers have been talking about. So let's jump right in, Naomi. We've been posting
yeah,
quite a lot about methods and approaches and strategies, whatever you want to call them, essentially, how you
yeah.
teach English in your classroom. So what are some of the conversations that have been happening?
Well, we had a really good chat about what teachers think are like the most underrated methodologies, and we had some really interesting responses. Quite a few people were saying things like drilling and repetition get left behind these days. Then we had a few people advocating for chalk and talk and rote learning, even. And then some of the more modern approaches, things like translanguaging, total physical response, mind mapping, emergent language, all sorts of things. And there are even a few in there that I'd never heard of as well. So I had to do some Googling.
Absolutely. No, I mean that's what's so incredible about this international community of English language teachers is that we're at different stages in our careers, different parts of the world, different classroom dynamic, and yeah, it's just curious to learn what kind of everyone's doing, what they used to do, what they've now changed to doing. So a
Yeah.
lot going on. Naomi, we are live on all three platforms right now. I can see we have lots of teachers watching. We've got Hamza on Facebook from Jordan. We've got Vietnam in the house on YouTube, likewise in Nigeria, Adesola. Um, Georgia on Facebook, so many, and on Instagram as well. I can see we've got Malaysia, Turkey, Kazakhstan. So
Wow.
thank you, teachers, for being part of this global conversation.
So
Okay.
international. It's wonderful.
It really is. I mean, Teach English literally is the world's largest online community of English language teachers and teacher educators. So thank you for all coming together for this live chat. So Naomi, you said you were, I'm curious to know actually, you said you had to Google a few methods when you saw them in the comments this week.
Yes.
Do you remember any?
I do actually. Yeah, there was one. The acronym was GRR. I've got the comment about it here, and it has several acronyms in it. One of which I recognised. So GRR, it boosts learner autonomy, minimises
Hmm.
the TTT, which I do know, teacher talk time, makes the lessons more student centred, and establishes a systematic routine. And you could easily connect it to the five E's. Now, I don't know if anyone knows what those five E's are. I now do, and I can tell you, but anyone in the comments want to share what those five E's might be? Or Marcus want to have a guess?
Oh gosh. Oh, it's been a while. Yes. I know engage is one of them.
Yes.
Um, oh, don't put me on the spot. Teachers, pop it in the chat. Again, no
Someone's
Googling.
asking. Yes. I'll tell you what the GRR stands for if you don't
Oh,
know.
please.
It's gradual release of responsibility, which makes perfect sense. And so the five E's stage that way to, I guess, you start out giving the learners a lot more support and give them, and then gradually release that support.
Hmm.
Do you want me to tell you what the
Okay.
five E's are?
But before we get to that, my brain when I saw TTT, because
Yeah.
in the world of English language teaching, TTT so unhelpful has two. different meanings. So teacher talk
It
time is the
does.
other. Do you remember what the other one is?
My
It's a
mind has
sort of
gone
teaching.
completely
It's a
blank.
yeah. It's a sort of teaching approach that we might use in class where we test the learners at the
Test, teach, test.
beginning, then we
Yes,
teach, and then we test again to hopefully
yes, of
show
course.
the learners themselves that they have taken something from the lesson. Okay,
Yes,
let's dive into the
of
five
course I
E's
knew
then.
that. Friday afternoon, my mind just went completely blank.
Okay, so five E's.
Five E's. We have engage, explain, explore, elaborate, and evaluate. And this teacher very kindly explained it for the gradual release of responsibility as engaging, doing the activity, um, explain, I do it, explore, we do it, elaborate, you do it, and then evaluate with an exit ticket.
Mm. Okay,
I thought
so
yeah,
that's
nice model, something new I learnt.
absolutely, and that's one of the great things about the community. We're all learning from each other, and hopefully, teachers by the end of this chat, we'll all be walking away with some new information, something to maybe try out in
Yeah.
class as well.
I'd be curious to hear from our audience today what their favourite methodologies are. Maybe not the most underrated, but what their favourite, what do they come back to every time?
Oh, well, I think it depends on the class.
Yes.
For me, my favorite with kids is, again, another acronym, TPR, Total Physical Response, because it gets students up and moving, which is
Yes.
fantastic. And you're associating vocabulary and structure with movement, and that kind of has a much better impact, especially with kids. Definitely
Absolutely.
do like a bit of that. Um, Teach, test, teach. I do use it, but sparingly with probably sort of mid-teens, sort of secondary school, those who might be preparing for some kind of standardized test, where we might sort of focus on a bit of strategy. So we might do like a reading comprehension or listening
Mm,
at the beginning as a test, and then we teach the strategy to apply, and then they try it
mm,
again, maybe with a different but similar level, to see if they can apply those strategies, which could be then hopefully beneficial for them in their tests. But yeah, I think I don't limit myself to one. Again, also curious to know what teachers who are watching, what their favorite strategies and teaching methods might be.
absolutely.
Um, got a lovely question. Well, a lovely question. Got loads of questions already.
Yes.
Um, Sorry.
Just agreeing.
Oh, right. Okay, so this one from Sode. Um, Again, I kind of touched on this just now from my personal way of teaching. I think a lot of the methodology that we apply or choose to apply will often depend on the size of the class, the level of the class, or even the goal of the lesson itself. So I think having a bit of a mix is always good. If we want a bit of energy in the class, good bit of TPR is always good. If you've got a large class that you've got for a long period of time, you might sort of adopt some project-based learning into your curriculum, give them something really meaty to not just get
Yeah.
into, but also kind of get collaborating as a wider group as
Yeah.
well.
And sometimes, I mean, sometimes if you're doing a more sort of academic course or a lecture-based course, you might actually choose to do a bit of chalk and talk as well. I mean, it's
Mm,
it might be appropriate in certain circumstances for certain audiences at certain times.
absolutely. In fact, what Christina says here, I believe a mixture of strategies, not
Yes.
a favorite one. Again, I think it's we've all got those in our teacher toolbox, don't we? We all have a bit of variety that we apply now and again. We may sort of
Mm,
predominantly favor one, maybe not as so much as the favorite, but one that seems to work um, for learners. Another comment from Charmante, or Charmant. I do prefer the inductive approach as it maximizes STT, student talk
So, yes.
time. So I love inductive approach. Again, it's part early on in the lesson. It's the sort of presentation part or the engage, I guess, where students are discovering for themselves what the rules are of that particular grammar or structure that they might have just been introduced to. And by the way, teachers,
Yeah.
if I do get anything wrong about these methods and methodologies, do correct me in the live
Yes.
chat. I feel I've been put on the spot for a lot of these, but again, it's we're all here, so teachers, please do
Yes.
help out in the live chat.
Absolutely. And I saw this was an interesting comment as well. In many of our practice tests, I teach test and then forget. It's a new acronym for me, but we can see that happening sometimes. I think that's one of these times where you want to be recycling your vocabulary in whatever way you're doing. You want to make sure you bring it back in a bit later. You don't just teach it and then move on to the next unit completely. You need to keep bringing things back.
Yes, and that's one of the great things about doing sort of a regular test, or at least a test at the beginning. If it
Yeah.
is sort of focused on something that you believe your students should know, then it'll reveal those gaps, and it'll tell
Mm,
you as a teacher, you might need to change that approach so that that maybe the approach that you tried, let's say, was a bit, let's go back to the TPR, to total physical
mm,
response, and that didn't stick with them. Okay, so maybe we can do some drilling. Maybe we can
yes.
find some music, some chanting, to hopefully sort of get it more embedded in the brain. We're going to bring up Karen, who's been, I'm sure, as amused as we have been
Yes.
checking out all of the community discussions. So I've kind of given her a little bit of warning. So Karen, I'm going to bring you up on stage right now.
Mm,
Hello,
Hello.
Karen. Oh, I've
I'm slightly
been
frenetic.
yes, I know. Tons of comments, all flying by on
yes.
screen. What are teachers saying? And anything about favorite approaches or favorite methods?
Well, there's been quite a bit about like using a variety of techniques. So I just grabbed some from Instagram.
Hmm.
Oh,
Actually, there's a
wonderful.
question on Instagram.
Okay.
Uh, what is chalk and talk?
I mean, it's very the traditional method where or the teacher stands at the front of the class and teaches at the students. There's less engagement, less communication between the students or the learners, I would say, in chalk and talk. It's very much a sort of one-way transfer of information, in my understanding. Is that how you understand chalk and talk, Marcus?
Yes, and I tell you what, when you say chalk and talk, I've immediately kind of got a photograph in my brain. Again, it's kind of a very formally dressed teacher at the front of quite a large green board or blackboard, again with said
Hmm.
chalk. I'm going to quickly ask Karen if she envisages it the same way. Students are all
Yes.
sat in one type of desk arrangement with the chalk and talk. Yes, I imagine them in
Oh,
rows
yes.
as well.
Absolutely, Rose. Yes.
Yeah, so
And I,
it's kind of a long time before we start getting a bit more communicative with our
and I think there
approaches,
is
isn't
a
it?
tiny place for chalk and talk when you're
Hmm.
giving some explanations, instructions, or maybe some general feedback after an activity.
Hmm.
Yes.
So the other things that people have been talking about is this one, gamification has been mentioned.
Oh,
I'll leave that with
excellent.
you to come back to, but
Hmm.
other teachers have been talking about eclectic approaches, using approaches sort of, based on your students. So
Hmm.
being guided by the students. Others
Yeah.
are talking about guided discovery. and communicative teaching, and singing and dancing. I think you might see that quote, that one. Anyway, lots and lots and lots of great discussions, and people are just mentioning a lot of the methodologies, but I don't think anyone has like a particularly favorite one. It's using a mixture of approaches. So I'll leave you with
that's the key.
Eclectic, gamification, and I'll come back later because I have another question.
Ooh.
Okay. Catch you in a bit. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you so much. So have you heard much about gamification, Marcus?
It was a huge thing a few years ago. I would say,
Yeah.
I would say early 2000s. I think it kind of coincided with the dawn of social media, where
It did, yeah.
where we were kind of searching or sort of in need of those kind of constant, I don't want to say validation, but little short wins. We needed kind
Yes.
of little rewards or steps along the way in order to achieve something. So gamification, in terms of classroom, it could be as simple as in primary school, you may have those charts on the wall with the different categories, group work, punctuality, initiative, and then number of
Totally,
stars.
yeah.
So again,
Stars after,
so it could be used as a way not just to motivate learners, but also as a way to manage behavior as well. If you gamified the behavior in class, then students would obviously want to get those stars or the stickers, or with teenagers you might have some other kind of award system. For example, one school I worked at, quite controversially, it was the best performing student of that lesson would have no homework, or have a homework pass that they could use to get out of homework. So again, it was quite motivating.
Absolutely, yeah. I guess it's that I remember when gamification first came out, the argument was there. Are we like, is it the intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation thing? Are we doing away with the intrinsic in favor of extrinsic? That's the right way around, isn't it? I always get those words through. Intrinsic's your own personal, extrinsic's the external one. Yes.
I think so. Again, it doesn't really matter what these sort of things are called, because there are so many different names.
Internal motivation, external motivation.
Exactly. But I think, again, gamification is it's another tool. It's another tool in our teacher toolbox as part of the mix. We sort of can use it with certain groups of students. We can bring it in from time to time when we feel we need to. Again, not just for motivation. It could just be for maybe to sort of encourage weaker learners to at least maybe feel that they've got some short, quick wins along the way, to again sort of perk them up a little bit.
I think one thing I'd like to add is I think teachers shouldn't be afraid that they only know one or two of these tools in the beginning, because I remember when I first started teaching, I was doing my PPPs, another acronym. And very simple lessons. But then as I learned more and more approaches, more methods, more tools, then I was able to bring them in and better understand which ones worked in which situations. I think it's really, it's like doing little experiments with our students, isn't it? Which methods work when. And if we find something that works with a particular class, that may not be the best method for every class, but if it works with these guys, that's perfect.
That is true. Comment from Suzanne on Facebook, sharing their experience. With my young adults who are preparing to enter the digital workspace, they want usable language skills. We focus on dialogues and workplace vocabulary, and the grammar flows organically. Now that's super interesting there, because they've got this sort of real world situation where there is a need, there is a desire from the learners to be able to formulate certain structures. So rather than the teacher sort of teaching it explicitly, the students are in a situation or doing a task where they have a genuine motivation to know a piece of language, which is a lot more meaningful, I think, for the learners. Thank you, Suzanne, for sharing
Yeah,
that. Mohammed mentions discovery approach works well. Again, allowing learners to sort of work out for themselves patterns in grammar,
absolutely.
for example. Jen on Facebook, we often use communicative language teaching for adult learners as our students prefer more output. I mean,
Yes, I think,
communicative.
yeah. Yeah, I think Gifty agrees with that as well. She's got a very long quote here, so I don't know if that'll fit on the screen. I think it might cover the entire screen,
Okay,
but
give it a
also,
try.
yeah,
Oh,
yep. See, yes. Again, it's using the language in context. Yeah. So I think that's a real key. Is not just using for a lot of learners is using it in a meaningful way in context. So I like that.
yeah, I do absolutely. Thank you, Gifty, for that lengthy but meaningful and helpful comment there.
Mm.
Oh, this is a bit out there. Cosimina, the approaches in English teaching, like the constructivism, are the tools based on philosophic visions
Ooh.
that they inspire the linguistic and educative methods in ELT.
Mm. I
I'll
don't
be honest,
know.
Cosimina, that a lot of that went over my head. I might have to dive a bit deeper into that quote.
Yes,
That it feels like it has a lot of depth.
absolutely. I want to know what constructivism now is now. Yes, I've
Hmm.
not really studied that much philosophy to know that one.
Hmm. Okay. That is a very good one. Okay. So sorry,
Yeah,
I'm not distracted. A little
yeah.
bit distracted actually. Um, okay.
Yes,
Sorry.
we've got some other interesting quotes from the community question the other week as well.
Oh
I
yeah.
really like this one. Um, there's no underrated methodology. It all depends on your students' needs, your attitude towards different methods, and what your students will develop through each process method. I thought those were very wise words.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so much great stuff coming through.
Yes.
So go back to your question or your doubt over intrinsic and extrinsic. The extrinsic motivation is to earn a living. So sort of external, isn't it?
It's
That's the
external.
pressures coming from
Mm,
society. Yeah. Okay. Well,
yeah.
learn. I
That
told you. I told you. We are learning so much from each other.
absolutely. Yes. Oh, yeah.
What you come across?
Yes, again, I again someone else who likes to mix it up. I never settle with one to keep my learners guessing, which I like. Yes, you keep engagement high if they don't know what to expect every day.
Absolutely. I can see Karen waving at us, so I'm going to bring
Oh,
her back up now.
yes,
Karen, you're on mute.
You'd think after many years I'd have learnt that to unmute.
Wow.
No, there's two related comments here. So the
Hmm.
first one is from Jen. We often use communicative language teaching for adult learners as our students prefer more output, followed
mm,
by, let me just find, it's from Checky, which methodology is the best to a child? I don't know if that one's come up yet on
we
it's on
have not.
Instagram.
Well, I kind of mentioned TPR as opposed to personal,
Yeah,
but
but
again, it depends on the age really, because you know, for example, when I refer to TPR, it's very useful with students who maybe sort of aren't able to read and write, or at least are
Mm,
learning at that stage. So they're associating movement with with sounds. And again, a lot of young learners, their attention span, there's a lot of sort of classroom management that goes into it. So lots of kind of short activities, some high energy, some low energy, settle and stir, is often referred to as.
I think with older kids, like project-based learning can be great as well. Giving them something they have ownership over, their own little project, I think can be really, really motivating and engaging for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And also it project-based, again, it's got a lot more scope because it could be cross-curriculum. It could be, mixing some other subjects in a kind of CLIL type way. It could also be used globally as well. You might have a partner school in another country who you work with to collaborate. Again, so much more you can do with project-based learning, especially with the older teens as well. It also preps them for the world of work and further study as well.
Absolutely.
And here are the last two questions before I go and come back again with my final one. Which teaching philosophy has had the greatest impact on your classroom? Excellent question. Brilliant question. And the other one is this here. Is there a best methodology?
Oof.
Okay. Bye.
Oh, don't leave us.
I'm sure teachers watching have loads of ideas, so I'll leave that with you guys. Also, there's a question here from Instagram. Let me just pop it on a banner.
And while you're doing that, I'm just going to put my 2 cents in for the which philosophies had the most impact on you. And it might not be something I use all the time, but I guess it's sort of emergent language or dogme. It's just not closing off opportunities in class when a learner asks an interesting question, uses an interesting piece of vocabulary. So it's bringing that into the classroom. And again, it's not something I use as a structured approach, but it's just, I like taking those moments if there's time.
I think for me, a philosophy that I sort of have is I want learners smiling or at least happy when they exit my classroom. For me, it'll impact the rest of my day. If I don't see that, I'm like constantly wondering, well, what did I do? Are they going to be going back to their homes and complaining about me to their parents? I want them to feel good about leaving the classroom in a way that they feel good about returning to the next lesson. So I think as long as you can sort of keep up that, then you've got the students, especially for a long academic year, it can make quite a difference.
I'm going to add to that, Marcus. I think also for me, as my ideal, I would like students to leave the class like a little bit brain tired from learning and thinking, not so exhausted that they can't go to their next lesson, but feeling like they have worked. And me feeling they have worked and have learned something, practiced something, produced something, and
Okay, so instead of happy, I'll say satisfied.
Yeah. Okay.
They've achieved something, because that impacts me as well as a teacher, and my motivation to teach the next lesson as well. So it does have quite an impact.
Okay, here's a question from. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say for the motivation you put in your lessons, Karen, would you call that maybe, is it demand high teaching that I believe we've been talking about recently? That's kind of that, isn't it?
I'm a huge fan of demand high teaching. I think it's amazing. Yes. But I think I can say I'm not an expert. I'm not very good at it, because I forget. We have our plan. There's loads of stuff going on in the classroom. Brain is busy. All of that, making all of those decisions as you go through the lesson. Do I continue? Do I pause? Do I ask another question? So I try and just tiny extensions each time of explaining some more or putting a lot of the responsibility on the students to explain to each other, to give me examples, that kind of thing.
But I think that really does leave us the learners with that feeling of having worked and grown and done something positive.
Exactly. Okay, here's a question from Instagram. Is the CLIL method, and can it be used in teaching English lessons for ESL students?
Okay, I'll tell you what, we'll leave Karen go, and she's going to pop a little poll question in the communities
Oh, yes.
as well. Thanks,
Bye.
Karen.
Thank you, Karen. Bye.
Oh, where did it go?
Oh, the banner went. But anyway, it was, yeah, there it is.
Okay, so on Instagram, Nunkiapper just joined. Okay, welcome. We've got a few more minutes before we wrap this up. Is CLIL method can be used in teaching English lessons for ESL students? So we've got two little acronyms in that. So CLIL, I won't. Oh, Naomi, yes.
Content language integrated learning.
Perfect.
So it's taking two subjects, taking another subject and teaching it and English together, basically. So you're learning the English for that subject at the same time as you're learning the English, as it were.
Exactly. So certainly for ESL, English second language students, absolutely. And it's quite widely practiced in many parts of the world. You know, certain subjects, the science subjects, mathematics, geography might be taught through English. So a lot of lessons do sort of focus on the language and the content at the same time.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and it can be very engaging as well because you're learning multiple things at the same time.
Exactly. So for learners, for example, whose favorite topic or favorite subject at school might not be English, but they might enjoy geography or science. So you've kind of you're saving that motivation for learning English because the topic or the subject for that content part is something they do enjoy learning about.
Absolutely.
So do like that. I'm just going to do a quick scroll of the comments here. So Maria, kids like music and TPR. Very interesting. You know, teachers do like to bring music into the classroom, and you know, there's so much you can do with it, and it is very motivational. There's so much great language within the lyrics. It's great for pronunciation. It's great for sort of looking at those structures in a way that might be specific to a certain genre or medium. Looking at rhyming, for example, that can be a good fun activity.
Yeah, and it doesn't just have to be kids. I mean, teenagers really love music lessons. I mean, you can bring their favorite artists in as well, which can be great fun. And adults as well. Again, it's just choosing the suitable music, the appropriate music.
Yeah, that's the thing, because music tastes are quite personal. It's quite rare that you will have a whole class who like at the same level the same type of music. Although with teenagers, yeah, I mean you can find a kind of maybe a 50-50 split. You know, so if you bring in you know, a Justin Bieber or or even some Britney or something like that, you might find sort of half the class might be familiar with the music, might kind of like that music, and the other half will just sort of be like, oh no, I hate this. So you do have to sort of choose wisely. Absolutely. Okay. Oh, love this, Suzanne. I love to hear them use the language in the hallways. Yes, I mean that's such a goal, isn't it? When they're using the language, when they don't have to, when they're actually using it outside of class.
Absolutely. And I think when you see a student outside of class and they greet you happily in English, wonderful feeling.
Oh, absolutely. Marta on Instagram, yes, you're right. If I talk about some topic which interests my students, they love learning. That's the key, isn't it? You know,
Mm,
like I think we just keep coming back to this idea of motivation. It seems to be connected to how we choose our
mm.
methods and approaches in class, how we manage the lesson, the content that we choose for the lesson, where we're always on a constant battle to, or not battle, a constant
Mm.
challenge to motivate our learners as best we can.
Oh, and I've just found one other comment here. Someone
Yeah,
told me what constructivism is because I did not know this term.
okay.
Constructivism encourages learners to build knowledge through active participation, collaboration, and real life communication instead of only receiving information from the teacher. Thank you very much, Suad. That sounds great.
It's kind of like the social learning, isn't it? It's like we learn from
Mm,
doing, we learn from those around us, we learn
hmm.
out of necessity. Yeah, thank you. I
Yeah,
did say we were going to learn a lot from each other, which we
absolutely.
seem to be doing absolutely. Yeah, I think we're going to have to wrap this up. It's been a
We,
really engaging, fantastic, helpful, useful, informative, educational, and some entertaining as well
Marcus the
conversation.
thesaurus.
Okay. All right. So, teachers, thank you so much for joining
Thank you.
the live chat. If anything comes to mind as we stop the stream, just keep the conversation going. Pop them in the chat. We will be moderating the
Yeah.
comments, and we enjoy doing that very much. So do keep them coming.
Yes.
Naomi, thank you as well for your insights and your learning that you've passed
Thank
on
you.
to us as well. And thank you for being
And
uh,
Karen.
absolutely. I'll tell you what, I'll bring up Karen now if she's got a second.
Yes.
Yeah, she's nodding. Yeah.
Yes.
Hi.
All right. Thanks, Karen. I know you've been super busy. You need to give you little fingers.
It's so great. Like all the comments and teachers writing, questions and ideas and talking about methodology is kind of like one of my favorite subjects.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, this is fantastic.
It really has been. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Kind of don't want to do the rest of my work now. But I just want to stay here, to be honest. But
I
anyway,
know,
teachers.
that's all the teachers.
Anyway, thank you so much, and we will definitely continue the conversation on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Bye for now.
Bye.